Like anything in life, there's a right way to have Huel and a wrong way to have Huel. So in this video, I'm talking about the 7 biggest mistakes beginners make when having Huel.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Number 1, jumping right into it. Do not do this. It does take your body a bit of time to acclimate to Huel, especially the amount of fiber that's in Huel. And I've known people say, hey Mark, I'm gonna start having Huel. I'm gonna replace breakfast and lunch and have normal food when it comes to dinner time, which is what a lot of people do. And I always say, look, don't go all in right away. Start just with breakfast. Then do breakfast and lunch and work your way up. Even for me, I fuel almost every day, especially when it comes to post-workout. And if I'm traveling and I go from having Huel once a day to 3 times a day, I still feel it even after having Huel for years. Make sure you ease your body into it as opposed to just jumping straight to having it all the time. Number 2, not having enough water. This is a big one. Even for me, sometimes I forget this because when you have Huel, let's say in a blender cup, like this is how I typically have it. When you have this, in your mind, because you're drinking it, it feels like liquid, which I guess technically it is liquid solid, tomato, but you're having liquid. However, you have to remember that you still have to have more water on top of that. What I typically do, I have Huel in this. After I drink the whole thing, I fill it back up with water and have that as well. It can be very easy to get dehydrated, I find, when having Huel, and especially in the beginning, when you're first having Huel, you might not think about like, oh shoot, even though I just drank this blender bottle or this cup of it, I'm actually not having any water to hydrate myself. Another thing is a lot of people want to know about bloating. There is some light bloating I've noticed with a lot of people, especially in the beginning when you first start having Huel. And I think a big part of that, among a lot of things, is the fact you're not drinking enough water. As counterintuitive as it is, not having enough water actually makes you more bloated. I know that sounds weird, so you want to make sure you're having enough water when having Huel. Number 3, I won't be full. This is the biggest line I hear from a lot of people when taking it, being like, oh, well, it's just powdered food. I just do a couple scoops in water. Like, I'm going to have Huel and another meal. I'm going to have Huel plus this, and this. Trust me, Huel is insanely filling, and I do suggest give it some time because I've noticed the most intense food comas I've ever had have been from Huel, especially when I first started taking it. There's so much macro and micronutrients in it. It's a phenomenal nutrition source for you, but I'm telling you, it does fill you up and it does have everything your body needs. So just keep that in mind, because if you're trying to combine Huel and another piece of food or a snack or something, you're gonna feel way more full than you could ever expect. Especially when you first have Huel, you're gonna be surprised how filling it is, unless you're having it with breakfast and you're like, look, I'm gonna have Huel and eggs or Huel and toast. You may have Huel and be like, you know what? I think I'm good just with Huel. Like, I feel so full already from this. I'm pretty much good to go, so keep that in mind. Number 4, bag handling. This is a weird one, but this is one that I really wish someone told me a lot earlier, and that is, I hate to say it, Huel, I love the product, but the bags are atrocious. You think after you open it, you can easily seal it back up? No. Now, if you have it in one location, like say in your kitchen, whatever, that's one thing. But if you're planning on traveling with that bag, which is what I do a lot, be prepared. The amount of times I've opened up my luggage or my suitcase or whatever, and there's just powder everywhere is ridiculous. Just be prepared that the bag is horrible when it comes to sealing it back up. I'm hoping maybe they make in the future some kind of sealable bag that's a lot better and more efficient or whatever. But until then, I do suggest maybe have a different container for it when traveling. Like say if you're bouncing around, make sure you really roll it up to make sure it doesn't come out. But even still, when I've rolled the bag up and really sealed it, still this powder everywhere somehow. So if anything, I do suggest get a different container and use that, especially for me, like I said, the 2 biggest times that I use Huel is for post-workout and traveling. And when it comes to the bag itself, it is honestly one of the most frustrating parts of Huel. Just find another container as an alternative. Number 5, white or black. Now, in case you don't know, when it comes to the Huel powder, there's actually 2 different types. You have Huel white and Huel black. Overall, simplifying it, Huel black has 50% less carbs and 33% more protein. For me personally, I will never buy Huel White again, especially because I'm big into health and fitness and I work out a lot. I'd much rather have less carbs and more protein in my shake. And I want to say this as a side note. I've had some people say, hey Mark, well, I'm not gonna lie, like I need the carbs. And I get that, but even Huel Black still has a good amount of carbs. Most people are not having enough protein in their diet, and not just athletes, but even if you don't work out, you still need a good amount of protein. Of course, everybody's nutritional requirements are a little bit different. There are some general guidelines overall, but obviously every body is different. However, for most people, I suggest Huel Black all the way. Number 6, too much replacement. Now, I did live off Huel for an entire month. It was an insane month and I felt great on it. However, though, I only did it for a month. And like I said, I do have Huel almost every single day. The big thing for a lot of people, though, when they first get into having Huel, is they look at it as a very efficient replacement for almost everything. Now, yes, Huel is an amazing, nutritionally complete meal that you have super quick, super easy, super efficient, all the benefits of Huel. However, I even did some research online. One of the top search things about Huel is, can Huel replace vegetables? Look, I'm telling you, you want to make sure you mix up your food sources. As good as Huel is, I always believe in mixing up as many sources as you can. So even if you have Huel for breakfast and lunch, make sure for dinner you always mix up the food that you're having, the vegetables, fruits, all the healthy food you need to have a very nutritionally complete diet. Because I've seen some people say, hey, well, I had Huel a couple times today, now I don't have to have that salad. Now I don't have to have this spinach, I can have French fries instead. While Huel is great to replace one meal or 2 meals in your diet, it should not be a end-all be-all to replace everything in your diet. You still should be eating healthy on top of that. Number 7, smoothies. This may be an unpopular opinion. I don't think Huel is the best if you want to put it in an entire smoothie. Here's the main reason why. I know a lot of people say, hey Mark, I'm gonna start having Huel, I'm gonna mix it in with my smoothie. But if you're having bananas, strawberries, blueberries, Greek yogurt, however you make your smoothie, plus Huel, that is gonna be an aggressively thick smoothie. I'd almost rather have Huel in one shake and the smoothie in another form. Because for me, when I have Huel, like I said, in this blender cup, I typically just put Huel in it and I treat it like a big shot. I shake it up, chug it, boom, I go on with my day. And what I suggest to most people is, look, just have Huel on its own and a smoothie in a different form. Now, what you can do is maybe have like half a serving. So in case you don't know, Huel is typically 2 scoops. They give you a scooper, maybe do 1 scoop in a smoothie, have another scoop on its own or something like that. I guess you could make like a big smoothie, so that way it's more diluted, so it's not as thick. But even still, I actually find when I have Huel, I like having it just on its own. And now, a bonus mistake that people make when first getting into Huel is picking the wrong flavor. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've had friends hit me up saying, hey Mark, WTF, I tried this Huel stuff that you talk so much about. Dude, this is horrible. Like, why would you ever suggest me to buy this? The first question I always ask them is, okay, what flavor did you get? Because I'm not gonna lie, some Huel flavors I love, some of them I do not love whatsoever. And I find, which is interesting, when I've had friends try another flavor, they're like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty good. Like, I like this one. Having the right flavor is actually a super important factor. In the description below, I have an entire video where I rank the Huel Black flavors from best to worst. Make sure you pick the right flavor when getting Huel.